Baba's talking about the contrast between thinking about service and thinking about trivia in the whole murli. And a lot of importance is given to the knowledge. And he's somewhat fed up with people, BKs, who are not able to grasp the knowledge or communicate it. Still, they say, we are Baba's children, we are Baba's students, but they're not grasping the knowledge. So he wants us, in the Gita, it says that God loves the knowledgeable souls. So he takes up this expression that is there in the Gita, Gyani tu atma priya hai. So this trivia, vyart means trivia, anything that doesn't mean much. It's not important, it's just ordinary. So this is 1st of January 2022. Sweet children, stay focused on thoughts about service. Become very knowledgeable souls and do not waste your time in trivia. Question, what are the signs of knowledgeable children? And the answer is they would be concerned that service is coherent, meaningful. They would take satisfaction from giving the jewels of knowledge, and the Father would be satisfied with them. They would not waste their time thinking about luxury food, and they would not get upset and start crying. They would not get into the arrogance of having given gyan to some VIP. They would remain aware that gyan comes from Baba. And the song is, have mercy on the downtrodden. Om Shanti. You children know that the Father had given mercy, and now he is doing this once again. Who is the giver of mercy, and who is the merciless one? Now you know this very well. The Father had mercy for Bharat, which means the land of Bharat that he had made like a diamond, and to whom he had given the most elevated divine independence. You now understand who had given the fortune of the kingdom to Lakshmi and Narayan. Certainly, the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul, created the creation. And the deities had taken the inheritance from the Supreme Father, the Supreme Soul. But the world does not know this. The people of Bharat had complete independence. The Father showed mercy, and now again they are asking for this mercy. Who was merciless and made them suffer, made them impoverished and corrupt? That one's effigy is burned annually. This Ravan had made them suffer. You wish to take revenge and insult anyone who makes you suffer and gives you distress by desecrating their effigy. The Father says the devotees are all impure, and they do believe they are impure, and they also believe they are part of God. In the newspapers, it is printed that 3,000 years before Christ, India was Paristan, the land of the pure. At the very beginning, it was the land of deities, and then the Muslims came, and then there were the Buddhists. You can calculate the account of which was the dominant culture and when. From the middle period, other religions arrived and they took over India. The people of India believe in the images of the deities, and this is why we have set up the questionnaire. The Baba had made a questionnaire, and if people could answer that questionnaire, it would be a very good basis for telling them the knowledge. So it is easy to explain the knowledge on that basis. However, if someone is not conversant with the knowledge, they would be called a nitwit. Once you have heard and understood the knowledge, you should communicate it to others. Although there are many forms of service, these are all physical, social services. Some are commanders, some generals, some privates in an army. To prepare food is also a form of service, and whatever form of service you do, it definitely brings a reward. Knowledgeable souls also recognize that they are doing service. Those who serve truly climb into the Father's heart, and everyone will praise them. It is certain that the knowledgeful souls are greatly loved by God. But that does not mean that he doesn't love the others. He is aware of everyone's service. If anyone asks Baba whether they are in his heart, then Baba can tell them. But what reward would be received by those who just take service from others? They will enter the royal household, but their status would not be so high. You can do a great deal of service of your friends. This means that you should be thinking about doing service. Do not just waste your time in trivia. Those who do that are considered nitwits by the Father. Baba is giving you very good points. The questionnaire is very good. Jagat Amba is the goddess of knowledge. In her form as Lakshmi, she is the divine empress, and that is in the golden age. The praise of Jagat Amba is of this time. You need to imbibe the knowledge deeply. There is Haddi Dharna. So Haddi, you imbibe it all the way to your bones, not superficially. So this word Haddi is used idiomatically to mean solid, proper, and well-established. So you need a well-established and mature stage in order to find a place in Baba's heart. In a school, the students find their place in the teacher's heart number-wise. There is a variety. It is important to understand that all are at different levels. Jagat Amba would not be called Dhan Lakshmi, that is, Lakshmi, the giver of wealth. She is Jagat Amba, Mama, Jagat Amba. God had given her knowledge, and therefore she is called Saraswati and praised as the goddess of knowledge. At this time, in this body with this name, she is the goddess of knowledge. And through this knowledge, she created and achieved her status. As Lakshmi, she had received knowledge in her previous life, and therefore she became Lakshmi. That means Lakshmi was Jagadamba in her past life. And this secret has been made absolutely clear. It is absolutely precise as to who she was in the past, who she is in the present, and who she will be in the future. Each aspect is very good. The explanation is clear as to how Lakshmi took 84 births and where she takes her births. All this is clearly understood now. There is great joy when you gain understanding of something that was previously unknowable. And there is great joy in donating such wealth to others. The Father gives the wealth of the imperishable jewels of knowledge, and therefore you should also do the service of giving these to others. Do not just be happy getting caught up in Mama and Baba. Be interested in service, and then the Father will be pleased. Service is to give knowledge coherently. And if someone speaks the knowledge incoherently, they are called nitwits. They realize that they are not in Baba's heart. They are very focused on thinking about tasty things to eat. The aim and objective has been displayed outside. The name is written that this is the Godfatherly University of the Purifier of the Impure. From the Father, for 21 births, once again, you receive the inheritance of health, wealth, and happiness. A professional person's full occupation is written on a plaque outside their house. There is a picture of Shiv Baba and also one of Lakshmi and Narayan. So the aim and object of this school is written on the board outside, yet people don't get it. They do not even inquire about what happens in here. Wherever there's a shop, there is a board outside displaying what kind of shop it is. Like, this is a dairy, or this is such and such a shop. They never put up a board outside a satsang, a religious gathering, because the satsang is so well known, there's no need. Here, we put up a board saying that in this place, you can obtain the status of a deity through this study. But even then, people do not realize what this implies. They enter and inquire, what is the purpose of this place? But they do not read the board which defines the objective. They should look and see what kind of shop this is, but they don't know anything. The name of Adidev, the first man, Adam, is also named Mahavir and Hanuman, but they have no idea who he is, when did he live, and when did he pass on. Your children need courage to explain to them. If the one who explains is not practicing purity, the arrows of their words will not hit the target. If their words do hit the target, it means those words were told by Shiv Baba. If someone has character defects, then people would not like their explanations. Shiv Baba can come through them and give drishti and speak the knowledge. And that one would think they had given such good knowledge. And they would say, through my knowledge, this person was transformed. But this is their false pride. Someone reactive who gets upset and starts crying would not be able to give knowledge to anyone. So that sister is behaving like a widow, and she can never understand to whom she can give any knowledge. The Father himself benefits the other one. It happened when anybody cannot tell the knowledge that Baba would come through, and it's between the soul and God. So if she cries, it means she has created her own misfortune. You know that you are becoming a deity with a smiling face. And if you cry over something small, it means you did a slightly negative karma, which deceives you. Even very good ones cry over small things. And if Baba has to uplift someone, then he must give drishti to that one. To cry means to act like a widow. Here you say you belong to Ram, God, then you start crying, which means you're not able to maintain your connection with God under duress. That means you did not understand the test. You need a good stage. Even if someone is impressed or seems impressed by you, it is the power of Baba that influenced that person. If you say this knowledge is given by Baba, there can be no mistake, because the Father is the truth. And there are some BKs who would intensify the harm done. The Father knows, and his student also knows. The behavior is not correct, they are not right, and so they write to Baba asking him to take this sister back. Sometimes sister goes somewhere and is not quite right, so then they send her back. You must sacrifice your bones as Dadichi Rishi did. There are some who behave as if they are Nawabs. You know Nawab? Like, for example, a very famous Nawab of Hyderabad. He had 500 wives. And when somebody said that was rather a lot, he said, why? It's a lot. Krishna had 16,000. What's wrong with 500? So Nawab is a title for the Muslim overlords of earlier times. So Baba then understands that there is some eclipse casting a shadow over their spiritual income. Their fortune has changed. Sometimes they are influenced by Jupiter, sometimes by Venus, sometimes by Mars, and sometimes by Rahu. Rahu is the north node, which corresponds to your karmic debt coming up. So under the influence of Rahu, they become totally shattered. Baba gives you very good explanations. Tell the people who come that they are intelligent and well-educated. On the board outside, the aim and objective of the school is clearly written. And when people understand the purpose of this, they would enter with the feeling of anticipation. It is written that you can gain an inheritance from God the Father for 21 births and for 2,500 years. You can gain the kingdom of the dynasties of the sun and of the moon. Some will understand very well and others not, because your customers vary. All these centers are Shiv Baba's shops, but he is the one and only owner. Hundreds and thousands of these shops will emerge. Sannyasis have many shops, including in foreign countries. People from the West believe that the sannyasis will provide the ancient yoga and knowledge of Bharat. But it is not so. Only the Father gives this. No human being can give this knowledge. However, they changed the name of the Father and gave the name of the Son as the speaker of the knowledge. You can prove and articulate that the Creator of heaven, God the Father, is explaining this knowledge. You write to the Pope that he visited Bharat, but he did not know the full value of a pilgrimage to India. So tell him, if you wish, we can send someone to explain to you. But those people cannot come here because their high position precludes it. Only the poor will come. At present, Christ is in the form of a beggar, and it is said that Christ is poor. So definitely he would come here to take the knowledge as a poor person. He must come and salute the Father. Now, it is the time of reckoning, and everyone must settle their accounts. The number one person who salutes God is sitting here, Brahma Baba, Krishna. So Christ will also come. Your dynasties of the sun and the moon are being established. And the main pictures are of Lakshmi and Narayan. There is Lakshmi and Narayan the first, the second, the third, etc., who take the throne. Our images will be destroyed. And there is no accurate representation of any of the deities. There are images of Jagat Amba and of Lakshmi and Narayan in the temple of Dilvara. However, no one knows that the goddess of knowledge becomes the divine empress. And her descendants must also be there. This study is your source of income. As a Brahmin, you study and you become a deity. It is absolutely clear. The Father says, I have to reveal my children. It is not that one will receive the fruit of the karma of another. Each one will receive the fruit of their own efforts. I perform service, and the one to whom I give drishti is receiving their own fortune. So it's again this same question of the sister who's not able to give Gyan properly, and Baba is doing what is needed. Because the person who's taking the knowledge has a fortune, and that has to be given. This happened very particularly in the case of Brother Jagdish. And he was a very senior brother, but the person who was giving him the knowledge was a very simple person. So Baba did this with them. Who is Jagat Amba, and what was her destiny? The people of the world do not know these things. The Father explains that it is a disgrace if you cry. This is the house of the unlimited Father, isn't it? So if you are crying, what service can you do to make people laugh? you learn to laugh here. To laugh means to smile. Do not shriek with laughter. So much is being taught to you. Many points are explained. As the days pass, the knowledge will become progressively clear and your strength will increase. Acha. To the sweetest, beloved, long lost and now found children, love, remembrance, and good morning from the mother, father, Bap Dada, and the spiritual father says namaste to the spiritual children. The spiritual children say namaste to the spiritual father. The essence for dharana: do not be arrogant and give your bones in service like Dadichi Rishi did. Just give your bones. And secondly, remain smiling. Do not cry, because if you cry, it means you're acting like a widow. So continue to smile and do not shriek with laughter. So the blessing is, when you experience that the one Father is your whole world, and you remain in continuous remembrance, then you are a Sahaja Yogi. Sahaj means to remain in the remembrance of one, and no other can impact you or influence you. Your body, mind, and wealth are used according to his instructions. You will not use them according to the conventions that were instilled into you. You become a trustee and remain double light. That means when you follow Baba's directions, other people won't like it and make you feel guilty. That makes you feel heavy. But when you know that what you're doing is Baba's directions, that's higher than other people's disapproval. And so you can be double light. This is the meaning of Sahaj Yogi. A Sahaj Yogi is a way to function while surrounded by other influencers. You remain in the remembrance of one, and you are emotionally sustained by that one. One Baba is your world, and so your remembrance of him is easy. Since half the kalpa you have struggled, and now Baba has freed you from this. However, if you find it a struggle to be in remembrance, it is because of a weakness. And the slogan is, the dharma of a great soul is to live a life of purity. Om Shanti. So you can see that Baba is quite particular about how he wants us. We have to see if we understand really the difference between trivia and what's important. Because there's not very much time. Now, 2022, whenever it's the new year, there are lots of predictions about the year, right? So predictions for 2022, they say there'll be a lot of extreme weather and very difficult for people. Now, I had a message from some BKs in Canada who said today is minus 35. That's a lot lower than you can handle, right? Minus 35. It's centigrade. If you put wind chill factor, it'll go down to like minus 50, minus 60. So when it's minus 35, if there's a fire, they can't put it out because the water cannot go from the hose to the fire without freezing. I saw that one time in that part of the world, the Edmonton area. Big storms, big problem just now in Colorado, where you never hear about these things, but big time. I think it's quite important for us to think about the difference between trivia and what's important. And sometimes I get messages from people who say, you know, something happened and my stage went bad. You must experience this. Not necessarily something which would normally make your stage bad, but you suddenly find that you're not in a good stage. Have you experienced this? Just all of a sudden for no very good reason. Yeah or no? And then there is something called magical thinking. You've heard about magical thinking? It's how children think, magical thinking. And it's very connected with the superstition. And in superstition, like, you know, they say, oh, there was a black cat went by and therefore something bad will happen. Actually, the poor black cat, nothing bad will happen. But people have this sense that something bad happens, it means something. So sometimes people say, okay, my stage was not good, it means something. And then you disturb yourself by these things. So if your stage is up and down, then what does it mean? It means don't worry about it. It'll be okay, and make it okay. That's what it means. It doesn't mean, ooh, like that. So being knowledgeful, having good understanding of the knowledge. And Baba was talking specifically, he used the word vilayat. And vilayat refers to the Western world, not all foreign. Doesn't refer to China, Japan, the eastern parts, but the Western parts. So these are the people who, he said, they're interested in the yoga of India. So you know that in about the 1920s and 30s, around the time when Shiv Baba started coming, at the same time, some European poets and scholars and so on, they discovered the Indian scriptures and stories and so on. And about 100 years earlier also, you may know there's an opera of Mozart called The Magic Flute, right? So what is that? Krishna. And several of the things that Mozart had done come from India. But a lot of people don't put that together. But there was a big movement among the intellectuals in the Western world, European world, where they used things from India as a foundation for the poetry and the whole thing called the Romantic movement, which was in about 1830. This was all coming from India, but they didn't say it came from India. So people were very amazed by where did all this come from? But and you can see once you know the mythology and background of India, and then you see what they did with it, you can see they picked it up and used it. And in the later time and beginning of late 19th century, beginning of 20th century, they were translating this, especially the Germans. And this is why they use a W wherever in India is pronounced as a V. And so when you get Diwali, they write it with a W. This is because the transliteration came from Germany. But you have to pronounce it not Diwali, but Diwali. That's why there's a W, because of German influence. In the same way when Baba says Va, it's not Wa, it's Va. But they write it with a W, and then the English-speaking people say it as a W, but actually it's a V, right? I checked the meaning of the word Buddhu, and that's what it is, nitwit. Somebody who's not very bright. That is Buddhu. But you can see that Baba is quite forthright about what he wants. And what do you feel about that? Do you like a teacher who brings you up, or dumbing down? No, dumbing down is a different thing. Dumbing down is making it seem like it's much more simplistic than it actually is, so that the people who study don't really get to a high level of understanding. That's called dumbing down. And it happens in certain educational circumstances. For example, in the world, the people who are the dominant culture in any multicultural circumstance, they will arrange an educational system such that the people who are in minorities are at a disadvantage very specifically and knowingly. And then when they have to take the exams, they don't pass. And then people complain, why are they not passing? So then they change the level of the pass to a lower level, so that your people are far less educated than you make them out to be. And then you can control them more. So that's not very good, right?
They do that in America.
They do that in lots of places, not just only America.
There was a movement in the 80s and 90s, no one left behind. They wanted to make sure everybody graduated from high school. So they lowered the standard of 12th grade, the 12th standard. They lowered the expectation or qualification.
Right. So Baba, you can see from this murli that he prefers to keep the standard up, right? And so what do you like better? In BK, do you like higher standard or lower standard? You know, every single one of us has to face trials from life, trials. And if God is teaching you, but you don't get enough information for one reason or another, you're at a disadvantage. So that would be not a level playing field, right? Anywhere, you know, whether it's translated or not translated, the way that people talk about Gyan varies, right? you get a lot of people going on about you have to have virtues and you have to change, right? I hear it all the time. Change, change, change. But parivartan doesn't actually mean change. It means revert back to your original very high condition. And you can't do that by telling somebody to change or telling yourself to change. It doesn't work like that. You have to return to a satopradhan state to make that happen. And tomorrow's murli very interesting. Baba's talking about service through the mind and what that means. And nowadays in the BK world, because there's more and more Omicron type of COVID happening, and so lots and lots of people are locked down. So a lot of BKs are saying, okay, we need to do some tapasya, and there's a lot of tapasya programs happening. And many people are saying, well, we want to understand what is service through the mind. And you can't do service through the mind and engage in trivia because the two are mutually exclusive. If you engage in trivia or think about trivial things, the mind never gets to be able to function on that level. It's not possible. And so to select what type of thought will sit in my mind. We remember the murli of yesterday, the early morning, or for us anyway, 5 o'clock transmission. Baba was talking about 10 minutes every hour where your mind is like a receiver and transmitter, where there isn't any other kind of thought going on, just connected to the point and radiating. And so this is a quite high level practice. And it's difficult to have that practice if some other thing is going on in your head, right? And so he was talking about, in this murli today, he was talking about service and making a differentiation between different levels of service, physical service, making food, other types. Because in the tradition of India, when people talk about service, they're talking a lot about community service, helping people who don't have food, who don't have shelter, who don't have medication or medical care, who don't have transport, who don't have education, this type of service. But when Baba's talking about service in terms of knowledge, it's very specific to educate people in the concepts that he gives, which are very different from the concepts that people are used to. And when you give this level of education to people, they have to really think about it, because to shift from what you have always thought to something completely different, your mind has to really work with it to get to a point where it stops thinking about one set of ideas and starts thinking about a different set of ideas and making it like, this is what it is. For example, in United States especially, people are very dinosaur-minded. Dinosaurs, are important. You have toys of dinosaurs. You have dinosaurs in museums, and children are educated to believe that, this was the world of dinosaurs 200 million years ago, and we evolved, and there's progress going on. And so we assume that whatever is happening in this world, everything is getting better. And when people are faced with quite difficult circumstances that are prolonged regarding climate change, regarding excessive human population, and all of this, the response is, we will discover the solution and we will get back on track of progress. This is always the response. And then Baba comes along and says, there isn't progress. And so for somebody who deeply believes in progress, and it's not just United States, it's everywhere. It's very much in India also, this idea of evolution, progress. And then he comes along and says, it's the opposite. Everything is getting old. It goes sato, rajo, tammo. I think BKs are not completely aware that in India there is a big debate as to whether or not there is sato, rajo, tammo. And BKs assume that everybody knows there is sato, rajo, tammo because that's all you hear in the murli. And there's no question of sato, rajo, tammo in Western thought. Doesn't come there.
They do understand that nothing grows old or nothing grows young. Everything goes through phases of decay.
Yes.
Nothing comes back to new.
They do, but yet at the same time, belief in progress. So it's a contradiction, but they do not, as far as I can tell, they do not feel that there's a contradiction there, although it is a contradiction.
They don't have any proof
of
evolution. They make it up. I mean, you can see even the Leakeys falsified evidence of, their findings of primates and.
Definitely, but yet the belief, the culture, regardless of whatever you say, the culture says something, people will believe that because that's what they're hearing from childhood. We are this, and we are progressing, etc. And no matter what you see about deterioration, and why people can't take in the idea that there is no progress is because it takes away their motivation for living. They get hopeless. And sometimes Baba mentions that in the Golden Age, the deities cannot have this knowledge because if they knew, they would lose their happiness. So the only time when you can hear and really realize that all this time we have been declining, we've been coming down this ladder or staircase of 84 births, and now we're at the bottom. And after the bottom, we go up. So once we know that we go up, this is actually progress happens in the confluence age, because you restore yourself from Tamo Pradhan as a soul to Sato Pradhan through Baba's remembrance. And that means everything is connected with thought. Because when you connect with Baba, you connect through your mind. And your mind is a very sensitive instrument, which is not working well because it's been used to thinking about trivia. And so when the mind is thinking about trivia, the way the mind works is by association. So, and the mind is receiving all the time sense impressions. And so you receive a sense impression, you make an association, it raises different feelings and emotions, and it creates a mental state of fragmentation. And you can't concentrate because of distraction. So body consciousness is to be influenced by sense perception as body consciousness. And to have sense perception going on, but be neutral about it, independent about it, and instead have the things that Baba is saying going on, so that you adjust your mechanism of association. So when you see a cloud in the sky, normally you associate it with, oh, maybe it's going to rain or something ordinary like that. With Gyan, you see a cloud, you associate it that I am a cloud taking water from the ocean of knowledge, ready to rain the ocean of knowledge on different people. It's a different process of association that is the consequence of using the knowledge to redirect your mechanism of association. It's a very conscious process. And then he gives the knowledge of drama very specifically, so that whatever is going on, you will not spend time thinking about it in a repeating way that this shouldn't have happened, why is this, da 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 da, because all the energy of your mind gets lost by those thoughts. So when he wants us to it was very interesting in the blessing, what is a Sahaja Yogi? And it is somebody who is with Baba and with what he is talking about, with his perspective on human existence, and that the other influences that are around you can't get to you, can't distract you. So then your mind remains uncontaminated by trivia, because trivia is contamination of the mind when you're trying to have yoga at this level, right? Because he says, it was a very interesting thing when I was having conversation with Macy, and he was saying something very interesting, that we are the ones who actually cause transformation, not Shiv Baba, because he is akarta. He doesn't do anything. So he tells us what to do, and then we may or may not do it, mostly not, because the level at which we are using the knowledge is not the highest possible level. So we have to look at ourselves. Maybe he talks also in tomorrow's murli quite a bit about checking your chart. And checking the chart about at what level am I doing this? Because it's not very easy to quantify it or to calculate it and to put a number on it, and be clear about, okay, I'm doing this at this level, could I be doing it at a higher level? If so, what does it take? Is there something that I need to change in order to do this at a higher level that may be more effective than trying to change this or that little sanskara? You see, because when people talk about changing sanskaras, they will look at ways in which they behave, which somebody makes a comment about that they should change. And it doesn't work to do things at that level because you're not changing the level of functioning. You're doing something which is not very different from how religions teach religion to small children. You have to be good, you have to be polite, you have to be nice, you have to be sweet, things like that. It's very ordinary type of religious effort to be a nice person. And we did that already for 2,500 years, but nevertheless, there was a decline. So we don't do it like that now because it doesn't get us where we're trying to go. And so we have to think about, okay, what is he really telling us to do? Because then if we do that, then there'll be an effect. And interesting, the statement that if a BK sister is not competent to communicate the knowledge at the level of the person that she's talking to, then Baba has to take over. And then the knowledge comes out of her mouth really nicely, and the person receives very nice drishti, but it doesn't correspond to her stage or her level of knowledge, which is the sign that this was done by Shiv Baba. And it's very interesting that the person cannot tell that Shiv Baba used her, but thought, I did this. And then this arrogance comes. I did this. But how do you know if you did something is if you can do it again at that level with anybody. It doesn't happen, you see. And I think all of us have experienced at least once or twice where we were faced with a situation that was out of our capacity. And then it happened. And so we would say, that was Baba. But someone would say, no, that was me. So Baba says, not at all, it wasn't you, it was me. But I'm so invisible, I'm so secret that you didn't understand it. So it's kind of an interesting combination. On one hand, he wants us to raise our level so that it is us who does whatever he wants us to do. But he also wants us to understand that if we're his instruments, he can use any instrument he wants, anytime he wants, for whatever he wants. Is it not? Definitely. And what that means is we don't have to worry if something is outside our range. And one person was asking me about Dadi Jenki yesterday, that how come, she was functioning at that level. And a very big part of it was that she understood what does it mean to be an instrument and be willing to do things that are out of range, knowing that Baba will work through and get it done. Because otherwise, to make the world into heaven is not possible for us. It's not possible. But yet it's happening. And I think that at the present time, he's saying to us, okay, now I've told you everything. You know what to do. Now I want you to do it. And so then for us to think about, okay, at what level can I do this? And what does it take for me to make that change from doing Raj Yoga on one level to a higher level? What do you think? What does it take? It's a question to ask yourself, because we're talking to ourselves. Okay, I'm doing Raj Yoga at this level, and you need to define for yourself at what level am I doing this? What is my practice actually? And then when you, like, if you check your chart in that way, that what is the level at which I'm doing this as of right now, in terms of thoughts, words, actions, what I do, what I think about, what I get involved in, how do I communicate the knowledge, how do I use the knowledge, what is exactly my relationship with Baba, to what extent is Baba my world, or is he only part of my world? To what extent do you take help from other people as a support? And then to that extent, you're not taking Baba. So it's like there's partial connection with Baba and partial connection with other things. And so what does it take to shift that so that it's not partial, but more, at least progressively total? And so making changes in that is, to me, more meaningful, because it will have better results. Because what we need is to be able to do the things he's telling us. And if we dumb ourselves down, or if we dumb each other down, and define Raj Yoga and describe Raj Yoga in very casual way, then that would be the level of what we're doing, right? And so I thought it was interesting that in this murli today, he was very saying, hey, I want you to be properly knowledgeable. And yes, whatever you do, you will get the reward for it, no doubt. But I think he was saying, no, come onto a higher level. You can come onto a higher level, but maybe we haven't thought about doing it on a higher level quite in a focused way. Or maybe we think that, we have to be balanced, and so we'll get all involved in all these logic things, and that's okay because it's balance. But then your practice will slide down in the name of balance. And then when you hit a test, then you find that what you thought you'd be able to do, you actually can't do. And so that is a kind of self-deception. And so we have to think, am I clear about where I am, what I am, who I am, or am I dreaming? I think I'm at a higher level than I really am. And I think maybe 2022 is a good year to think about those things, because I think we're going to be dealing with a lot of things that we hadn't really anticipated. Just some thoughts. Shanti.